you're listening to Food Rebels, a brand new radio show and podcast dedicated to food founders, challenger brands, and people in food and drink who are doing things a bit differently. I'm AJ Sharp, the show host. I'm a taste expert, food writer, great taste judge, and business owner. And I'm really delighted to be joined by our lovely guest presenter this week, Suzy Pelta. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me again.
Well, this is just the perfect show for you, really, isn't it?
Yes, I can see cake, so I'm happy.
Suzy was the, have I got this right, ITV Lorraine Cake Club winner.
/ queen. They actually called me the Cake Club Queen.
Cake Club Queen?
They did, yeah. I never got a crown, though.
Oh.
Sadly.
But an all-round foodie legend with a real specialism in cakes and sweet things.
And a love for it as well.
And a love. So you are going to love the guests we've got on the show today.
I already do.
We've got Mike Woods from Just Love and his daughter Danika. So hi Mike, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having us on
Hi
the show.
Danika, welcome.
Hi.
Mike, can you start off just telling us a little bit about your business, Just Love?
Sure. So it's a predominantly allergen-based celebration cake business. Started in 2010 on the back of having 2 of my 3 children with severe nut allergy. And at the time, nobody could buy a cake that was safe for those people with nut allergy. So we were the first in the UK to break out and say, this is nut-free.
Amazing.
And stood out and done that in 2010. And subsequently, we've started to take milk out, egg out, and other allergies out. So we're slowly on a journey of removing all 14 allergens out of the cakes in different products, in different styles. But been breaking ground, I suppose, driven by the family situation.
Amazing. So Danika, these cakes were really made with you in mind.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
The inspiration behind the brand.
That's excellent. Cool. I don't know where to start. There's all these beautiful cakes all chopped up in front of us, which I'm dying to taste.
So am I.
Have you got lots of technical questions about baking to ask?
Yeah, a little bit. But I think what you can tell already by looking at these cakes is that they look really delicious and they look really inviting. They look really moist. There's a great crumb. And so I think I don't need to ask technical questions. I think they've got that covered.
Cool. Should we just dive in and start tasting?
Literally dive in. Let's do it. Which one should we start with?
Try this one first. So this is our happy birthday cake, and it's gluten-free and milk-free.
Excellent.
It does contain egg, so we're all very clear about these allergen positions. So
It's hard to make gluten-free though, isn't it?
yeah, we use kind of rice flours and things like that to replace the typical gluten flour in there. And then we typically use, we've often found the cake either has to have gluten in it or has to have egg in it. It can't have both missing. So otherwise there's a compromise on eat as a rule. In this particular product, we've got egg in there, but then we use rice flours and potato starches and things like that to replace what would be the milk.
And it's fluffy. I mean, often
yeah.
when you have a gluten-free cake, and I know I'm probably going back a little bit, it could be quite flat sometimes.
Yeah.
But this is fluffy, it's spongy. You can actually kind of squodge it and it bounces back.
So I'm old enough to have made cake for quite a long time. So I've made cake that is got gluten in it, got milk in it, and got everything else in it in my life, in my history, for major manufacturers into there. So very much focused on things like mixing methods and things like that to make sure the process of getting all the ingredients blended together in the right way was very, very important.
Yeah.
To get the thing right. So. Got a very good team of people who've worked on the understanding and the logic. I brought somebody out of retirement, actually, who used to work for me years ago on the mixing methods and things like that. He was brilliant. Just that's great inspiration around sort of, you've got to blend it for this bit of time at the beginning, then do this and do that. So really worked hard with some good people on getting the cake to, it's got to eat well. Even if you've got an allergy, the last thing you want with an allergy is still just a disappointing cake.
Yeah, completely agree.
It's got to be delicious.
Yeah, and I think also because you were coming from a place of wanting your children to be happy, and as parents, that is what we want to do, you weren't just trying to find a quick fix cake. You wanted an actually delicious cake that would replace the cakes that your children couldn't have at the parties they were going to, or their own birthday parties as well.
Absolutely. We were talking about this on the way up today. We were saying about the psychology of when you are a child. With Danika went to birthday parties before there was a solution from us to do this, and the parents would often say, "Don't come."
No.
you're a risk.
No.
I mean, this is
It's just awful.
Quite a few years ago now, but
quite a
yeah.
few years ago, but before.
Was it a nut allergy that
Yeah.
you have?
Yeah.
So it's quite serious
It
if
is
you
a
get it
serious
wrong.
allergy, but parents would be nervous about at their party there was something that they couldn't control. And they literally said on a number of occasions, can you not come?
No.
And that is obviously frightening, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was can be upsetting, obviously, for the parents of the child with the allergy and for the child. So,
Can be.
yeah.
Yeah, we had exactly the same thing with my daughter, who has a dairy allergy, or quite a severe one when she was younger. And every kid's party, she couldn't have the sandwiches because they had butter in. She couldn't have the cake because it had butter in. Nearly everything that was on offer, she couldn't have. So I used to go to parties with a little bag full of food that was all the things that she could have.
Yeah, no, exactly the same. And the child can feel though they're made to be different then, and some children don't want to feel different. They want to feel like they're blending in and the friends are all together and all sorts of things. So very...
Or you'd brought your own cake.
Yeah.
So I'd have got a dairy-free chocolate cupcake, and then everyone else is having vanilla sponge, and then they're all looking at my daughter going, why has she got a chocolate cupcake? Like, oh, Lord, I've got this wrong again.
We literally have tried to put on the box, this is a cake for everyone.
Yeah.
To try to say to people, and tasting's so important because I think some people would assume that the dairy option that's free of dairy or dairy gluten-free option is probably not as good. There can be that mindset, I think, for people. Until you eat the cake to prove the point that it actually is as nice, then you find people suddenly go, oh, well, if we can both eat it then, I've got an allergy, you've not got an allergy, let's eat the same cake. All of us are bringing people together. So we're kind of using that slogan, bringing people together with cake, which is not a bad thing to bring people together with, is it really? But those with and without allergy can eat the same product, whereas just like you've just said at the beginning, we'd have to take our own little special cake and put it in the corner, and Danika would have her own version while everyone else had a different one.
Yeah.
So
What was that like for you, Danika?
To be honest, I don't have like vivid memories of it anymore. I think my parents did a very good job at kind of making me feel like it was part of the process and that I was special. And it was, whenever we talk about it now, I always say I think it's so much harder for the parents because you have that pressure as a parent to make sure your child, you're seeing it for them, aren't you? I mean, I always tell you that it must be hard as a parent to watch your child be excluded, but I was quite okay. Like I don't look back at it and think, oh, I was left out. But as I was saying earlier, I do think it's led to quite an unusual relationship with food. I think I have quite a unhealthy relationship with my diet and eating now, which is probably because of my allergy. But yeah.
Do you think so? Like you really have to check everything, I assume.
Yeah. I mean, I'm quite, because I was diagnosed at 3 and I'm 26 now. So I know kind of what I can and can't have. And I will check labels regularly just in case it's changed, but I'm quite stuck in my routine. It's when I have to go out of my routine, I go into a panic. I'm like, oh, I've not had that before. I think I was lucky that my dad was working in the food industry. So as soon as I was diagnosed, he knew, right, okay, this is what may contains means, because that's a bit of a minefield as well, isn't it? People don't really necessarily know. Is it the ingredients? Is it the factory? I'm not sure. But you had that knowledge. So I was able to kind of navigate it and get comfortable quite quickly, I would say.
As your dad kind of just wanted you to feel safe, didn't he?
Yeah.
In your choices that you were making. And what you've done by creating this brand is allow lots of people with allergies to feel safe because you've got the convenience factor. Because I think also, as a parent, when you're having a party and you've got kids coming, you want to, I certainly will totally take shortcuts, and I'm a baker as well. I'd be happy to go to supermarket and buy a cake. And if there's something there that everybody can eat, it's a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you do that? And it's delicious. I think it just makes life easier. Everyone feels included and everyone feels safe.
Yeah.
And that's such an important word, I think, when you've got an allergy or an intolerance that will make you ill if you do consume something that your body can't tolerate. So you've created something that will help so many people.
100% agree with that. 100% agree with that. And it is about safety. And I do think, like I said before, a lot of people have changed now that do want to include the person with allergy. Well, that wasn't
So
the
it
case,
should be, yeah.
and as it should be.
Yeah.
And I think that, obviously there's been a lot of publicity around certain cases where it's not gone right for those, but it's always very difficult. But I think that's created a better understanding in the end of what the risks are for those with allergy, and there is more willingness to include them in the solution. But they still don't want to buy a bad cake, do they, either, if they haven't got the allergy?
Definitely. There's no excuse for bad cake.
No excuse for bad cake.
I completely agree. And you're right, though. This is why it's so lovely to see where you've created, tray bakes and things like that have got the icing on the top. They've got the happy birthday. They've got the kind of confetti style, sweet pieces on the top. Because a lot of the first dairy-free things that came out, certainly the ones I was buying for my daughter, just looked medicinal almost. Really plain, really dull, really it didn't feel the same as everybody else.
Because I don't think there was love put into those kind of things as well. And I think, as I said, you've come from a family background. This has not necessarily been, correct me if I'm wrong, a business you just wanted to create. You created it with your children in mind. Absolutely. And I think with that, there comes a different attention to detail with these cakes. And, I've bought allergy-free cakes for other children before. And I've also felt a little bit ashamed of them because they haven't delivered the same level of taste or the same experience. Like you said, these are happy cakes. They look pretty, they look inviting, and you want to be able to give that regardless of whether or not you can eat particular things. Everybody should have the same experience.
I agree. Do you think that's a change in our culture, in our schooling system?
I think there's more people with allergies now, and I think that you have to make sure that everybody is included. There's no excuse not to.
Yeah, I agree. And I really notice it. My kids are 8 and 9, and they're embracing of people who are different, and I mean that in all senses of the word. It's quite celebrated. It's like, oh, I'm different, I'm special, I have this and I have that, and I've got dyslexia and I have a nut allergy, and whatever these differences may be, they're quite proud of them in a way that when I grew up in the 80s, I had dyslexia. I used to keep that very quiet. Whereas now I'm like, oh, I'm dyslexic. And I have these conversations with other 8-year-olds where we encourage each other. I love it. I think what a wonderful community. Yeah. What a wonderful culture that we're growing now.
Because you're understanding that you learn from people by talking to them and finding out about their differences rather than seeing that they're different or they've got something that isn't the same as you and you just ignore it or kind of don't want to get involved.
And children are so marvellous about asking about it, aren't they?
Yes.
Why have you got that? Why do you have those glasses?
Yes.
What's that hearing aid? What's that? Why have
Sometimes
you got that?
a little bit uncensored.
Sometimes, but I love the complete innocence of I'm just asking. I
Yes.
just want to know.
Brilliant. I think I've only seen that change in the last few years, though. I'd say it's in the last 3 or 4 years where that kind of 8-year-old suddenly is embracing differences. And it's beautiful to see, because it was very hard when you were younger. You were the one in the class who was different. And
yeah, you get like a blue spot on the lunch queue ticket, don't you?
Oh,
and
yeah, they print
you
your
go and
picture out,
stand
stick you
over
on the
there.
wall.
Yeah, great, like a mugshot.
Yeah.
We were doing a bit of a review with some cake. They were mothers who were buying the cakes in this particular audience, and they were all sort of talking things through. And they were just saying how even at 3, a child knew much more what they wanted. And it was whereas before you'd think at 3, you just, here's your cake, you buy what you thought was right. But between that 3 and 8, there was a lot more. I just felt liberated. There was this real strong confidence sometimes in what they wanted.
I do think things have changed. I think also with you, you were saying how your relationship with food is very much affected by kind of your experiences at the beginning. And I'd like to think that children today wouldn't have that because there is so much more available to them. They can go to restaurants and it's clearly stated which items are nut-free or if they're gluten-free. There's often a whole other menu. Allergens are clearly stated. And products, yes, the may contain is that confusing thing which you just don't quite know what you're dealing with. But the actual complete free-from market is so much bigger and is growing and evolving the whole time. And not just growing and evolving, but also really considering taste and the experience for the consumer in a way that perhaps, when you were a kid, and certainly 300 years ago when I was a kid, it didn't consider that at all.
It's very empowering, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think we've noticed that in so much of the kind of Gen Z culture. They're much more empowered, much more aware. I mean, you'd be just at the top end of Gen Z. Is that right?
I get confused. What is Gen
I
Z?
don't really know.
Gen Z, I think Gen Z is aged about 8 or 9 to about 26, 27.
Oh, there we are then.
Just on the cusp there.
Yeah.
What we're seeing in the kind of purchasing habits, obviously we can only look at the top end because you can't monitor children, but at the top end we're seeing a real change in the way they are very, very kind of opinionated is the wrong word. That's not the word I'm looking for. Just empowered by their own decisions, educated about what they're doing.
They know what they want.
They know what they want,
Yeah.
and they're really aware that their choices are going to have an impact on people and planet, and
It's that conscious consumerism stuff, isn't it?
really strongly.
Yeah.
And really like, no, I'm not going to buy that. I will not buy that
Yeah.
because I don't agree with it.
I do think the whole culture shift is going to be so important, though, for safety, because I think when I was in school, I really just didn't want to feel like the problem. And that was my thing. I can't speak for every child with an allergy, but for me, it was very much, I knew my sister wasn't allergic to anything, and we were a whole nut-free household. So the holidays we went on were self-catering. She didn't get to experience the same things that other children were experiencing. So because of that complex around being the problem, I used to hate, when we were in restaurants and they'd say, oh, my daughter's got an allergy. I'd be sat there like facing, like in my hands, just mortified by it. When I was then going to restaurants on my own, my friends would be like, you're not going to tell them about your allergy? And I'd be like, oh, yeah, okay. And I'd get all worked up about it. And I think inevitably that's not safe. And I think if you're getting children from a young age to be empowered by their allergy, to be open about it, when they are going to restaurants on their own, when they're going on nights out and they're ordering drinks and things like that, they're going to feel confident to say, I've got a nut allergy or I've got a milk allergy, and it'll just be safer. So I think it's important.
I completely agree. Are we allowed to try one of the
cakes?
Yeah. Looking so good. Can I try the vegan tray bake one? I'm lured in by the beautiful confetti on the top.
Me too.
I'm pleased we haven't got plates to put these down on. You've sort of got to eat the
shove
whole
the whole
thing,
thing
haven't you?
If we both eat at the same time, no one can talk. I'll let you have a mouthful first.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
One of the other things that we've noticed has changed, this is a statistic, is that 48% of households now have somebody in the house who's avoiding something.
Yeah.
Whether that's for choice around vegan, or whether that's religious choices, or whether that's an allergen choice. But they're saying now there's quite it is harder if you're the one person doing the catering for that family household to balance all those various different things. So the more you can make a product meet the highest proportion of those choices, it does take a bit of stress away, I think, sometimes for catering in that situation. So we've noticed that figure's gone up a lot in the last few years. So there is, for some reason, we don't really know why, there is an increase in allergy proportionately in society going around, and we do have to do more to try and cater for that choice for people, I suppose, as well, still.
I wonder why the allergies are on the increase.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that. Certainly just within my social circle, much more of the children of my friends have allergies than our generation.
Do you think it's an increase in education and people are testing things more, and we're less willing to put up with something that was really uncomfortable, but you just ate it and you just got on with it because that's what you were taught to do?
Quite possibly, yeah.
And there's some of that. I think it's both. There is definitely an increase in number of people with allergy that's gone through, and then there is a detection challenge as well.
And the anaphylaxis side, of course, that seems to have increased enormously.
Yeah.
I don't remember that from my childhood at all.
No. I remember meeting a lady once who was 99 at an award ceremony, and she'd become allergic to penicillin in her 99th year.
Oh, wow.
You just think, how?
Bodies are a funny thing, aren't they? They really are.
Because some people seem to become allergic later on in life. So they could have had gluten for 30 or 40 years, and then all of a sudden they've got a problem with it.
Yeah.
So I wish I knew the answers to why, but it does seem to be more prevalent than it used to be.
I can see that. Right, Suzy, I think you should try this chocolate one.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed the tray bake, by the way. The frosting is really buttery. Obviously not butter, but very buttery.
Thank you.
And is this the whole range? Because we've seen a sort of happy birthday cake and a tray bake and a chocolate cake. All are beautiful.
So what we've done first is this. This is kind of like a bit of a rebrand, I suppose, if that makes sense. The business is called Just Love Food Company, and that was the brand. But we kind of did a lot of research into this area and actually turned around and said, it is about just being love. And it sounds corny, but it was most people's birthday occasion. It is about showing love to each other. And so there was all these marketeers saying, we want to think of a different name, And we ended up coming back and said, it's Just Love.
Yeah.
So we actually gone away from the name Just Love Food Company to Just Love in there. And so we've changed the recipes. We've upgraded everything on the current products, but we're going to be launching new products in the new year.
Are you? What can we...
A rainbow
Are we allowed to have
cake,
a little...
The first
a rainbow cake.
rainbow
Lovely.
cake in that sort of scenario. So I think we're excited by that and taking these new recipes into new formats and new eras as well. So it's exciting times, isn't it, really?
Yeah, we did just launch a vegan version of our Happy Birthday cake. So it's the first to UK markets that's a vegan vanilla sponge with jam and cream and the sugar paste finish. And I run our social media accounts, and it was one of the cakes that I was always getting asked for. Whenever we post anything, it was that nostalgic thing. Someone's been vegan for however many years and they just miss like a fondant cake.
Really sweet,
Yeah,
lovely.
it's like that your childhood birthday cake and you can't get it. So it was the first to market. That launched in May.
It's super exciting. I mean, literally, I can see, we've worked with lots of brands in the past. Oggs is one that jumps to mind. They do a really lovely kind of egg replacement product. They've got the aquafarber and also their scrambled Oggs. But what's really fascinating was their mission was always to remove animal products from the food chain. And what I've really noticed it, because it's not just them, but this is something they've been banging this drum for a really long time now. And it's seeing it sort of everywhere, is how many products now without any kind of animal product in them, you can have a really nice slice of cake which tastes authentically how you remember it, and a cup of tea which has got milk in it that actually doesn't taste too oaty, or it doesn't taste too soy or too whatever. It tastes like milk, and you can have this really authentic experience without involving animal products.
Absolutely.
And 5-10 years ago, I can remember thinking, it's a really good idea, but I just don't think you're ever going to match the flavour. And I'm wrong, and I'm delighted that I'm wrong, because I'm seeing it time and time again. We have loads of kind of plant-based brands that come in and meet us, and absolutely incredible what everyone's able to do with flavour, isn't it?
And not just flavour, I think texture as well. Texture is almost as important because it's part of the tasting experience. So you want it to kind of have a bit of a bite but be crumbly and melt in the mouth, and kind of everything that you would get from a slice of cake that had ingredients in that we would say normally, in air quotes, put in. I mean, I love the chocolate cake there as well. That was I hate using the word moist, but I'm just going to say it anyway. It was really moist.
It is really delicious, isn't it? I see you've eaten all of yours, so it definitely went down well.
Yes.
I ate all my tray bake.
It's interesting with people like Oggs, they're in our space, but we actually get on well with them.
They're a lovely company.
Love good people.
Yeah.
And you just try and think, is there a joint mission base, really? So you come about being a family business. So we're passionate about this kind of, bringing people together with cake, but it's kind of making it safe and making it allergen-free. And they're passionate about removing eggs out the whole supply chain. So we met each other and said, is there anything we can work together with? You know what I mean? So it's just... they're good people, and it's nice to work alongside them at times as well, to see what we can do.
Yeah, they are. I've met Hannah Carter many times. She's I just love the way she doesn't see it as a competition. She sees it very much as my mission really is to remove animal products from the food chain. So anyone who's got that similar mission, we're friends with. This is brilliant, because this is my goal, and I don't really mind how it happens, but let's just keep going. It's really lovely.
Here's a little quirky story, if you don't mind me sharing this as well, but we obviously come from an allergen background. So on cake boxes, there's a bit of glue that goes into to stick the box down.
To seal it.
When we first looked into that, made out of animal origin.
No, really?
And you go, what?
Why?
And the ink in the packaging, like everything.
So we approach that and say, well, that can't be right. If this is a vegan cake, you've got to get rid of it. So we've actually got glues that are kind of animal-free as well.
Yeah, nice.
So that's our mindset to these things, is if it says it's free from, it's completely free from.
Yeah.
We don't do may contain at all.
Because that is so confusing as well, isn't it?
What does it mean? I think
it's just companies covering their back, isn't it? Because it may have been produced on the same line as something that does have nuts, and as I said, I think it is just a covering their own backs thing.
Or is it even just there's actually no nuts at all, I'm just going to put may contain because we're...
there's a little bit of legal coverage, you know,
Yeah.
to say, well, I don't want to take a risk, so I'll may contain. But I mean, I've worked in a factory that handled nuts and made cake that you had to put may contain because you'd have had marzipan going down the same production line full of almonds on the same line as you're making something that doesn't contain, and it would be too risky.
But what
not to put
even
that
though
on
it's
there.
perfectly cleaned down and it's not like it's they've just shoved it on
Without
afterwards.
being funny. So if you're handling that almond paste between one product and then go on to the next product, you know, not saying you haven't washed your hands between each product or whatever, but there's something in the air, something in the environment or whatever. It only takes one small thing.
And I think that's, education around allergens is really important because, like you said, it's on an aeroplane. If people have peanuts, I mean, that must be something for you as well to kind of make sure that nobody opens any peanut because of the air too. I think some people are so oblivious to how severe some of these allergies are. And actually what was interesting is your box has got something on the back, hasn't it? That you can pop up. So it says the allergens that it doesn't have.
I think that the lengths that we go to claim nut free, and that we've done that from day one, are quite intense. And I think we have a food list for the staff. So the staff have a food list that they can bring on for their lunch. And if it's not on the list, then that's gross misconduct. If you bring anything in that's not on that food list. So we have, internal testing, external testing, all the raw materials, have risk assessments before we bring them on site. So because we do all of that, we can say nut free and we know the consequences of getting that wrong. Yeah. And I think unless you're willing to go to that length and take on the extra costs of doing all of that, then saying not putting may contain isn't right. And there are people who have gone into anaphylactic shock eating may contain. And I don't think there's enough awareness around what that actually means. And because so many companies use it now, it's kind of like washing it down a little bit. Yeah. I know, because when I was in primary school, there was only 2 of us with nut allergies. And I'd always say, no, don't go near may contain. And the other person would always eat may contain. And he was like, well, it hasn't got a nut in the middle of it, so I'm fine. But he's never had, he's had a couple of reactions. So it's kind of, it's really people make their own minds up around it and what they think is safe and what isn't.
Picking up on your comments about the back of pack there as well, just one thing we noticed when Danika would go to a party that we weren't providing the cake solution on was she would go to the party and you just wouldn't know because nobody puts on the table the birthday cake to the in the box. It's all on.
See, I've always done it with my baking, actually. I make little signs and I write what it is and the allergens in it. I always have done.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Allergy.
Yeah, no, it does.
Thought about it.
Yeah.
And you're caring enough to sort of put on the table, this is the solution for that.
And then there's no guessing game.
No.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, whenever I go anywhere and I see the allergen signs, whether it contains this or I automatically trust them because I just know that even if it's got something in it, they'll tell me and it's fine. They know what allergy is and they're aware of the risk.
They're trying to do it.
Yeah.
Unbelievably, I'm so sorry. It's we're at time. Wow. So thank you so much to my fellow presenter, Suzy Pelta.
Thank you.
And thank you to our fabulous guests, Mike and Danika Woods from Just Love. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having
us.
us.
For having us. It's been a pleasure.
You've been listening to Food Rebels. We broadcast live at 5 every Wednesday through radio shows and stations around the UK and further afield, as well as podcasting apps, all the usual ones, iTunes, Spotify, Audible, whatever one you've got on your phone. If you're interested to appear on the show, please do get in touch on hello@foodrebels.co.uk, as we'd love to hear from you, especially if you've got a rebellious story to tell us.